Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wayne's World of Science and Technology. Today, we're going to take a look at Canada. Particularly, we're going to look at the most recent announcements from the Prime Minister of Canada about the major projects, and we're going to do an evaluation on them. Do they make sense? Now, obviously, this is a very surface level look because I don't actually have all the numbers in front of me, and well, quite frankly, even if somebody did provide me all the numbers, I'd probably have to get someone else to interpret them. But I know a fair bit about the background of the business cases, and I think I can provide some information as to where the Prime Minister's office is heading based on their choices. And these choices are interesting. Okay, the first one, LNG Canada Phase 2 in Kitimat. This is what you call a no-brainer. When I say it's a no-brainer, um, natural gas pipelines work at different pressure levels. The current pipeline pressure in this particular line can be increased by installing bigger compressors, more powerful ones. So it's not going to be a massive uh, dig a ditch from point A to point B sort of project. It's going to be a project at the points where the compressor stations are sited. And that makes it a lot easier from a environmental point of view. And quite frankly, we up the pressure on the pipeline, we can ship a lot more out, and there are a lot of people in the Asia Pacific who would like more LNG currently. In a couple of years, that'll probably be going away as the world electrifies, but right now, there is a market. Okay, Darlington, new nuclear power project. Okay, the aim is to be the first G7 country to have an operational SMR, small modular reactor, and we have a lot of need for small modular reactors here. One of the issues is that Canada's just so damn big. You can't centralize power production. You have to site it in in the different places. It doesn't make sense to build all the transmission capabilities. So the SMRs, the first one going in at Darlington, well, Darlington's already an existing nuclear site. This makes permitting really easy. And once the system's in, it's operating, then we can look at whether or not there's problems installing it elsewhere. And we're going to learn a lot putting this together. So that's a good one, I think. That's, assuming the business case is there, which considering the other energy stuff that I see going on, yeah, I see the business case being there. The Quanticourt Terminal Container Project, Quanticourt, Quebec. The idea is to expand the Port of Montreal's capacity by 60%. This is going to be huge. Port of Montreal is a choke point. Increasing capacity means that we will be able to ship more stuff to Europe, Africa, Middle East. It's going to give us a lot of options. The Michelvina Bay Foreign Copper Mine Project. Copper is a necessity for electrification. Expanding the copper mine makes damn good sense. Working in this particular case, and this is one of the things I like about Carney, and I'll say straight off that this is something that our government has not done properly before, is to work with the First Nations. And working in close collaboration with the Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation, that means the project will get done and done properly. It's not going to poison the environment for 1,000 years. The First Nation won't allow it. But it'll also be profitable because the First Nation has a vested interest in becoming more wealthy. I mean, who doesn't? So this is going to be a good one. The Red Chris Mine expansion. Expands the lifespan of the mine by over a decade. Again, this is copper production, electrification. We need copper, and this is going to be really big. It's going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions too, because yeah, they're electrifying a lot of the mine. And again, this is working with the Talton Nation. And it says here, it's an important step from reconciliation and further developing the provincial of northern British Columbia. Again, outsiders don't understand how much many Canadians value our First Nations. There was a time this was not true, but today we really, really value them. And a lot of us are damned ashamed with how badly the governments in Ottawa and the provinces have treated them at various times. By working with the First Nations, everybody benefits. So these are investments of 60 billion. Okay, jobs, 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 jobs. Critical minerals. Well, yeah. Okay, wind, West Atlantic. They're looking at different things that we can do here. These are further options. We have a lot of critical minerals. I mean, Canada has, in some particular materials, more than, okay, platinum group metals. We're third on the planet for access. Platinum group metals only appear in very certain geological formations, and the only places that have these formations in large quantities are South Africa, which has the greatest amount, Russia, which has a smaller amount, and Canada, which comes in third. Wind West Atlantic energy. Well, wind power potential. That's huge. Right now, and I know there's still a lot of people who think this is wrong, but wind power is less expensive than anything else we've got. It's less expensive than nuclear, it's less expensive than coal, it's less expensive than natural gas. You just cannot beat wind. And the newer wind turbines are tall enough that you have basically, I can't remember the term. Don't you just hate that when your mind goes blank? Um, okay, they're high enough that the winds are constant. So you don't have this, oh my God, the winds might die and you wouldn't have any power. No, they're high enough. Um, they're looking at carbon capture. Now, this is one I'm a lot more skeptical of. I know a fair bit about the chemistry of hydrocarbons. I used to design catalytic converters, so yeah, you learn a lot. These carbon capture plants, I don't think are ever going to be economical. But I guess we'll find out. Arctic Economic and Security Corridor. Okay, this is a big one. More infrastructure for defense and northern development. Now, again, this is something that is not necessarily thought about a lot, but Canada has the largest littoral of any country on the planet. We have more islands, literally. Well, more bigger islands. There are other places that are smaller ones, but we have a huge amount of the north that basically is almost uninhabited. And when I say almost uninhabited, habitation on the northern islands especially is extremely difficult. Before the last 20 or 30 years, some of these islands were almost completely ice surrounded all the time. So yeah, this could be interesting. Now, a lot's going to depend upon where things are sited. And this is where we run into one of the interesting ones, Port of Churchill. Canada happens to own the largest solely owned inland sea. There aren't any inland seas larger than Hudson's Bay that have only one country bordering them. Think about that. Hudson's Bay is bloody huge. Now, in partnership with the First Nations, we're going to they're looking at upgrading the Port of Churchill. Now, upgrading the Port of Churchill will also include um, extra rail lines. They're talking an all-weather road. Don't forget, this is far enough north that a lot of the year there are no all-weather roads because, well, everything turns to mud. Yeah, and I'm sure most of you have heard ice road trucking. Yeah, it really is a thing. So it's going to take a lot of work to pull this online, but Churchill has some major points. It's very close to, well, okay, from Churchill you can head either east or west out of Hudson Bay. That means you can get to Asia quickly or you can get to Europe quickly. If you're, say, in Montreal, you can get to Europe quickly, but forget about getting to Asia quickly. Or if you're in Vancouver, you can get to Asia quickly, but not Europe. You get the point. Port of Churchill has some real advantages, and we'll see if this goes ahead. I'm hoping it will. Also, high-speed rail. Toronto, Quebec City. I have no idea how much this will pay off. It could pay off a lot. When I say pay off, it has to make money. If it doesn't make money, or at least break even, it's a bad project in my books. So that's what we're looking at. Now, to go with this, we have a nice website on Canada.ca, which basically talks about Bill C5 and how they intend to do things, and the fact that, again, Indigenous participation, the First Nations are important. Here's the Major Project Office homepage. You want to contact them and propose a project? Here you are. Now, let's take a look here. Fraser Institute is I guess you'd call them slightly right wing. I don't think they're that right wing, but they're basically saying that they're not in agreement with this. Not that they disagree with what's being done, but I gather that, okay, eliminate a host of regulations and reform those that survive. Reform means change, by the way. Doesn't mean make it better, it means change. Um, yeah, I got to admit, regulatory hurdles are an issue, but I wouldn't trust the Fraser Institute to decide which regulatory hurdles are an issue. They have their funding agency, funding, and their funding comes heavily from business. The Financial Post is a heavily business-oriented paper, and so of course they're talking about which stocks might be benefited. And one of the things they've been talking about, Canada actually has a fair bit of power compared to, say, the United States. And there's been a lot of discussion about bringing data centers here rather than siting them in the US. Now, again, Canadian Center for Policy Alternatives, where's the industrial guide? Well, they're arguing the opposite of the Fraser Institute. Fraser Institute wants to turn around and deregulate, deregulate, deregulate. These guys want a little bit more bossing around by the government. Now, this is where I get in trouble. I think bulls should go bugger themselves. What matters is what works. Um, you have to evaluate every situation individually. Sometimes regulations are onerous, agreed. Sometimes they're absolutely necessary. There's a regulation saying that you cannot pour arsenic into somebody's cup. That's considered necessary regulation. Well, actually, it's called law. And if you do that and the person dies, you're a murderer. Um, but at the same time, there's regulations that really matter, and you have to sit down and look at each one individually. It cannot be a one size fits all situation. It has to be what makes sense under the circumstances. So, as far as I'm concerned, both the both of these guys, policy alternatives and Fraser Institute, can go bugger themselves. Now, here's APTN News. Now, APTN News is Aboriginal People's Television Network, and I'm looking at them because, again, the First Nations feedback is important. What do they say? Well, this is just an announcement. Okay, well, go to that one, because that's the one I'm actually interested in. Okay, we've got First Nations environmental organizations saying this is a problem. And it's the old case of they're right, they're wrong. Both sides have a point in this. The issue is going to be, can we reach a suitable agreement that everybody can get live with? Can we? I don't know. That's something that Carney's going to have to work his ass off on, and I don't know if he's capable of doing it. I would say the odds are probably more in his favor than not because he does have the years of experience as head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. He's used to dealing with people. He's used to making deals. Can he in this case? I don't know. Different situation. And the energy mix. This site is basically energy focused, and they're basically, I gather, somewhat happy, but there are lawyers out there arguing about it because they're arguing about the validity of the law. Now, this is nothing unusual. Um, there's always lawsuits over whether or not a law is suitable, and this is how we determine whether or not it's constitutional. If it isn't constitutional, it will get replaced. And Daily Commercial News. This is a site which is for builders. When I say builders, I'm not talking the guy putting up your house. I'm talking the people building big plants, large projects. And people like this tend to be excited. You want to pre-bid projects? Yeah, that's what these guys are about. Come on, open window. Okay, upcoming projects. Which, there we are. Nice list of projects you can bid on. 1,158 pages. 11,500 new results. Yeah. Okay, that gives you an idea of what is going on from the official point of view. My take. This stands about a 60 to 70% chance of working. I suspect that most of it will be found constitutional and the adjustments will be made. The basics behind it are nothing. Well, how should I put it? This isn't like the time we blew up Iraq. And yeah, we did actually blow up Iraq one time. It was one of the largest explosions ever sent off. And we set it off because the bloody rock was blocking navigation. Canada, we're different. Um, I think this could work. I really do. Now, there's a lot of complexity ahead because, well, you project cost per project. Is that what's really going to cost? 5 years down the road, inflation adjusted, when your nearest neighbor has a tendency to all of a sudden throw fits and mess up prices worldwide. Yeah. So at the end, I can't be 100% sure, but my take is that this is, it's all feasible stuff. I can see it working. It's going to come down to whether or not we can actually get everybody bought in and do it in a legitimate way that does not poison the country. And in case you're wondering why I'm so damn rough about this poisoning the country, I used to live in Cobalt, Ontario. You may have run into a guy called Charlie Angus on the internet in a few places. Charlie was one of my neighbors. Didn't know Charlie very well. I mean, saw him at the bar when he was performing because Charlie's a pretty good guitarist. And I went out to see him, seen him around town a few times. But I mean, basically, Charlie and I come from this town that has a lake. The lake is dead. The lake has been dead since the 1920s. Think about that. You can't let your dog go swimming in that lake. You can't let your kids go near that lake. It is dead. And it is in the middle of freaking town. Yeah, I get a little bit upset about pollution. We have to do this in a way that doesn't bugger up the environment. That's what it comes down to. And we have to do it in a way that makes sense financially, economically, and as Mark Carney said in one of his earliest interviews, it has to benefit all of our nations. And since there's over 600 of them, it's a little bit complicated at times. But anyway, that's it for now, folks. Like, share, subscribe, and all that guff. You got something out of it, and have a good day.